Hello and welcome to my review for Kodachrome, a new Netflix movie that came out I think a week or two ago, and I saw that it was coming out on social media, I think on Elizabeth Olsen's Instagram page. I thought, oh cool, new Netflix movie starring Elizabeth Olsen, who's one of my favourite actresses of the past few years. That alone sold me. Then I saw that Ed Harris starred in it and I thought, I'm all over this. So I found the time to watch it last night, and I have a few things to say about it. It's nice. I really like how Netflix has kind of settled into this thing now where these smaller kind of movies are getting made and just released on Netflix. I mean, this is certainly not a film that, well, in a way it is actually. But I was going to say that it's not a film that you need to see on the big screen, so it's great that it just goes straight to Netflix. But I suppose in the case of this film, apparently it was shot on Kodak 35mm film, in which case it would look a lot better on the big screen. But regardless, I like this. So these smaller kind of movies are getting put up on Netflix so you can watch them quickly, and you know, I like it. I enjoy it. It's kind of fun. The film itself was a little bit of a disappointment, I have to say. But I really enjoyed it, and I was looking at reactions and stuff on Letterboxd and online. It seems like I enjoyed it a lot more than most other people. This hasn't been reviewed very favourably, and I can see why. It is as predictable as it getting dark at night. There is nothing new done in this film whatsoever. It's directed by Mark Raso, and I haven't seen any of his previous films, but based on this I was quite impressed. I think that this film really has its heart in the right place. What holds it back is predictability and the lead actor being Jason Sudeikis, if that's how you pronounce his name. I've never liked him. I think it goes back to Horrible Bosses. He just has this kind of smarm about him, and it goes beyond like the character to me, and that might be, he could be the loveliest person in the world, but there's just something about his eyes. I don't know, like I just feel like he's a bit of a knob. That there's just like a smarminess that seems to come out from, you know, beyond the performance, and so he never sits right with me, you know. And I always say that I think comedians often make fantastic dramatic actors, and this is very much a dramatic performance for him, even though he has his usual kind of quips and stuff, and you know, has the kind of you know, the humorous moments that you would expect from him in the comedy films that he does. His character, whose name I've completely forgotten, which just goes to show you how well this main character worked for me. Whereas the other character, Elizabeth Olsen's character, Zoe, Ed Harris's character, Ben, you know, so Jason Sudeikis plays Ben's son, and he's been estranged from his father, Ben, for about a decade, and he's working as a record label producer. He's kind of like, you know, trying to get bands and stuff to sign on the label, but his career is basically on the ropes. Basically, he's about to get fired, and he gets a message from Zoe, who's this young woman, this nurse who works with Ben, his father, and works for him, you know, helps him and stuff because he's very sick and is dying. It's one of those movies, you know, your father's dying and you haven't spoken to him in a decade, but he wants you to drive him halfway across the country to this one place in America, the last place in the world where they're still developing Kodachrome film. Ben, played by Ed Harris, is a photographer. That was his trade, and you know, he's a well-known, famous, you know, world-famous photographer, and he loves film. You know, he loves shooting on film, and he has a few roles that he hasn't had developed, and he wants them to be developed through the Kodachrome process. And there's only like a week left before they stop doing it, and they run out of the inks and the dyes and all that kind of stuff. So Jason Sudeikis is like, there's no way, not doing it, you know, and he resists for longer than I thought the film would have him resist. But eventually, of course, he goes along, and I love road trip movies. I'm a real sucker for them. I think that there's an experience on the road when you're traveling with people. There's a bond that forms that's unlike just hanging out with them or going out to see a movie or going out for dinner. When you travel with someone, you go through an experience, and you know where the film's going. You know that their reconciliation is going to happen at some point, and I was quite impressed with how the film really held it off and really made itself earn it, if that makes sense. Like, by the time we got to that reconciliation, which wasn't like a full-blown kind of thing, which I also appreciated, but I liked how slowly, how well it took its time in getting to that kind of emotional climax. And I thought Ed Harris was fantastic, and I always like Ed Harris, even in really shit movies like Geostorm. He's usually pretty good. Here, he's just great, and I don't know whether he just looks this frail now because he is very old, or whether, you know, he lost some weight, I don't know, but he really looked like he was at death's door. And I hope it's not the case. I hope that, you know, he isn't kind of getting frail and stuff, but that probably is the case. You know, he's getting older and so on. It's interesting, when we first see him, he's playing the drums and his arms are ripped, you know, and he's got this cap on backwards, I think, and he looked a lot younger than he was. In the next scene, his hat's off, and you see kind of the ball, the kind of horseshoe, and he looked so much older. Like, it literally added 20 years to him when he took the hat off, and, you know, you weren't seeing his kind of flexing, sweaty muscles in his arms. Anyway, I really liked Elizabeth Olsen. As I said, she's one of my favorite actors over the past few years. There's just been a lot of great performances I've seen from her, like Wind River, going back to Silent House, Liberal Arts. I really like her in the Avengers movies. You know, she has a lot of range. And also Ingrid Goes West from last year, which is fantastic. Anyway, I really like her in this film. Isn't much to her character, but she gives this great kind of monologue to Ed Harris near the end of the second act of the film, which was the best acting in the entire film for me. There is a great moment, and, you know, I don't want to say spoilers, because this isn't a film where there's a cure for Ben. You know, it's like, oh, he's not going to die, even though he's pretty much dying throughout the whole film. You know, he does die in the film. And I won't say how, but I thought that it was such a beautiful rendition of someone's death. That to me really elevated the film so much more. Just that, the way the death scene was handled. I haven't seen it done like that before. It probably has, but I haven't seen it done like that before. And I thought it was really beautiful. I really did, in a very sad kind of way. And his character is a very sad character. I love that there wasn't this big redemption for Ben, because he is an asshole. He is a prick. And I thought that the scene where he kind of tried to explain why he was the way he was, and he couldn't really even explain it to himself, I thought was fantastic. So for me, the film is anchored by Ed Harris's fantastic performance. Elizabeth Olsen is there to do a really good job too. But then you have Jason Sudeikis, who I think did a good job. You know, this is the most I've ever liked him. But I did feel at times like I was literally seeing someone punching above their weight and trying to hit these notes that he just wasn't hitting. The end of the film, I knew it was going to happen. I knew what kind of not even the twist, but I knew what the kind of the punch at the end was going to be. I saw it coming a mile away, and that's not always a bad thing. But I don't feel like he sold it well enough. So it kind of the film stuck with me after the credits had rolled and everything. It really had left an impression on me, you know. And there's something about a strained relationship with a loved one that you know, feels like it can never be repaired, and then, you know, you kind of get through the, you know, this idea that perhaps there is some hope. You know, not that I've been through that experience to that degree, but I've certainly, like, I've fallen out with my dad. You know, we haven't spoken in a month. Like, that's happened, and I know what that feels like. And this is obviously on a much bigger scale, but it's that kind of thing. And I like those stories. So this film offers nothing new whatsoever, but I really, really enjoyed it. So it is what it is. I probably would watch it again for the strength of Ed Harris and the way he played this character. And yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about this film, but it isn't a great film. So there we go. That's my thoughts on Kodachrome. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts on it down below. Leave that one in for free, and I'll see you in the next video.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause